Are you a high-performing parent, entrepreneur, or high achiever in pursuit of excellence? Welcome to The Nexus Podcast, a podcast custom tailored for families like ours, driven, affluent, and eager to lead extraordinary lives. From rockstar stay-at-home moms to high-producing CEOs, we choose to model success for everyone we are surrounded by. We prioritize health over sickness, embrace a vitalistic lifestyle, and seek to tap into the limitless potential that God has bestowed upon us. I'm Dr. Daniel Kimbley, your host, and on this podcast, we'll uncover the secrets to living a fulfilling and abundant life, where you and your loved ones can thrive physically, mentally, and spiritually. Together, we'll forge a path to greatness and unleash your God-given capabilities. Get ready to say yes to a life of true prosperity and well-being. This is The Nexus Podcast. What is up, Nexus fam? It is Dr. Daniel back with another episode of the podcast. And this one looks a little different. I'm back in the home office recording. But neither here nor there, what I want to talk about today is the idea of good decisions and bad decisions. And, I woke up probably in the middle of the night last night, so this is fresh. Like, when you hear this episode, this will be less than a week old. I woke up in the middle of the night last night, and I was thinking about this idea of obedience. And I didn't really feel like it was my position to talk about obedience from a God perspective for this episode necessarily, on this episode of the podcast. But I'm laying there and I'm thinking, like, there's got to be something valuable here that I could share. And as I thought more about obedience, I really just thought about the idea of making good decisions. And one of the things that I often tell people inside of our office that I talk to on pretty much a daily basis, especially moms, like I have a lot of families who will ask, hey, what do you think about antibiotics? Or what do you think about vaccines? Or what do you think about giving my kid melatonin? Or what do you think about giving my kid vitamin D? Or what do you think I should do for my knee and what this doctor told me versus what this other doctor told me versus what this other doctor told me? And so I get all these questions, and sometimes it's difficult to sift through. And I can't imagine how difficult it must be really for a family to like sit, if you don't have a compass. Like one of the core values for my family, Heather, Coco, and I, is vitalism, and we actually use that inside of the office too. Vitalism just meaning that the body is self-healing, self-regulating, and self-maintaining. And so I bring that up because when you have a compass, it makes it really easy to make good decisions. But when you don't have a compass, if you don't have core values, if you don't know what you stand for, it can make it very, very difficult to make good decisions. And so one of the things, kind of a hack or a cheat code, if you will, to making good decisions, I always tell people is like just to listen to your intuition. Now, I would call intuition Holy Spirit and being guided by literally what God is like trying to pull you or get you to do. But whatever you call it, I think intuition is probably a good word that everybody can understand and agree with. And so, I always often tell moms, I'm like, hey, what do you think you should do? Like, what do you feel like the right decision is? This doctor told you to do X, Y, Z, but what do you feel like is the right thing to do in your heart? And oftentimes that answer that people will give is different than what the doctor or the expert or the guru or whatever told them. So I struggle with this like quite a bit throughout my life, and that's why I feel like I have some authority to talk about it. So I'll give you an example of exactly what I'm talking about and this idea of good decisions. So when I was in undergrad, I worked at an oil change shop. And so I was the pit guy. So I worked down below the cars. I would pull the oil plug. I would change the oil filter. I would let them know when it was ready to fill the car back up with oil. And I was greasy and oily and in this dark basement, like most of the day, 4 days a week, 10-hour days. And I absolutely loved it. And I got so good at it and I loved it so much that I just wanted to be the assistant manager at the oil change shop. That was like that would be me arriving at the ultimate destination in my life. And so much so that even I started that job when I was in high school. And I remember like before undergrad, I tell my dad, I'm like, Dad, listen, like I'm gonna have a 401k. I'm gonna have the things that my manager has, a house and a car and a motorcycle. And I'm gonna have a key to the shop. And like I'll be rolling. Like I'll be doing it. I'm gonna make $10 an hour. It's gonna be epic, and I'm gonna do that for the rest of my life, and I'll be set. Bad decision. My dad knew it was a bad decision. I did not. I thought it was like the ultimate decision. And if you work on cars, like that's not the point, right? The point is that my dad understood that, like, hey, you being like an assistant manager at the oil change shop is probably not going to get you what you want in life forever. And you're young and you're dumb and you're in high school, and just like, listen to me. So my dad literally he forced me to go to college. So I thought I was smarter than him, and I'm like, Dad, okay, I got you. You're saying I got to go to college. I can't be the assistant manager at the oil change shop. I can't take this job. So I'm going to apply to one college, and I'm going to hope that I don't get accepted. And when I don't get accepted, then that will be my out to just do what I wanted to do, which was be the assistant manager at the oil change shop. And what did you know, that God had different plans for me, and I got accepted, and my plan completely backfired. Good decision. So it was a really, really good decision to listen to my dad. It was a really, really good decision to go all in on what I ultimately would not have done. And it led me here. And that's what's so funny about it, is like, how many times have you made a decision that you felt like was going to be the right decision, and then looking back on it, you're like, I'm so glad it didn't go that way. And I think this is kind of what we're talking about. And so what I tell these mamas is, I'm like, nobody has ever, like in the history of the world ever, I don't think anyone has ever said, I wish I didn't listen to my intuition. Like, I wish I wouldn't have listened to what my gut was telling me to do. I wish I wouldn't have listened to what my heart was telling me to do. And the reason that people don't do that is because there's something to in our intuition and making good decisions. So, I go to college. I start to learn a whole bunch about success and about the brain and about how people are successful and what makes somebody successful. And I get super, super passionate about it. And I find myself at this crossroads of teaching. And while I won't give you all the details, I can remember being at someone's house, and I was offered some drugs that were very, very hard. This was a dark place in my life, like one of the darkest places in my life. And I don't know how many people know this story. It's very, very few, but I won't give you all the details of it. But what I will tell you is that I had a moment where, even though I got to become a teacher, I was offered these drugs, and my decision was, no, I'm not going to do that. And that decision led to me going to chiropractic school. So again, another good decision. Why? I have no idea. Like, everything in my heart wanted to pull me in the opposite direction. I would say everything in my logical brain wanted me to pull me in the opposite direction, but something in my heart was just like, no, you need to leave right now. And I left and ended up going to chiropractic school, leaving all the old life behind, and like literally started over. So again, another good decision. Everybody told us it was a terrible idea to move to Dana Point, California, to start a business on your own. Plus how much money we have borrowed from the government to go through chiropractic school. There's a lot in it. And again, arguably one of the best decisions I could have possibly ever made in my entire life. So here's why I share this with you, is because we all know inherently what's right. Like, talk to anybody. I could give you my dad for an example. I'm like, Dad, you got to quit smoking. Like, and I remember, like, my brother and I made a deal with him. We're like, Dad, listen, we'll paint the whole house for you, but you got to promise that you won't smoke inside anymore. And we thought that would get him to quit smoking. And he's like, nope. He just kept smoking, but smoked outside. And he honored it, which is super cool, but he never quit smoking. And so, like, we would tell him all the time, it's like, Dad, you got to quit smoking. It says right on the box that it'll cause cancer. And still, I love him so much, miss him so much, he continued to smoke. And so I think the reason that this matters, and the reason I shared those stories with you, is because we all know what's right and what's wrong. We all know what a good decision is and what a bad decision is. And yet, for some reason, we make choices that keep us stuck and keep us from going to where we say that we want to go. And my question is why? Like, why does that happen? And I think for me, the reason that I made decisions that didn't necessarily line up with what I said I wanted in my life in the beginning of my life, and obviously I made some good decisions to get to where I am, And it was one small decision stacked on top of another small decision, stacked on top of another small decision that were good decisions moving me in the right direction. But I think a lot of times we make bad decisions because we're afraid of what our responsibility will be if we make a good decision.